Hey there, welcome back to another review. This time of a film that I was looking forward to. I really was looking forward to this movie because I loved the first film. I'm a big fan of Neighbors. I've already reviewed the film on my channel. Um, there's going to be a link in the video description. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. Um, I pretty much explain pretty in depth everything about the film that I really like. And so I was looking forward to this. The trailers I thought looked decent. I like the idea of having a sorority instead of a frat. It changes things up. Um, I was very curious about this film because there aren't that many sorority comedies. I mean, there's a few like The House Bunny and some stuff like that, but there's not as many of them as there are frat comedies. So I was definitely curious about the film for that. And a lot of the original cast came back for the sequel, and so that was a big plus. And so I was like, all right, I'm up for checking it out. And I did, and it was more like sorority diving, as in diving into a pile of used tampons. I know it's a nasty image, but that's really a good way to describe this film. This is disappointing. It was so disappointing. It, oh God, this is, I would probably say this is the most disappointing film I've seen this year so far. People were like, why did you have high expectations for a sequel to Neighbors? I didn't have super high expectations. I just wanted this film to be funny and a fun sequel to the first film. I don't know, actually justify its existence. But there's nothing in this movie that does that. It doesn't justify its existence. In fact, it honestly, I don't even know why this is made, other than to make a cheap buck, which is sad because I thought the first film was great. It was funny and it also had a lot of heart, which is definitely missing with this film. Now, that being said, I don't hate the film. I don't hate the film with every fiber of my being. There was a few moments that definitely did make me laugh, and I did have some fun with it. But, but, it's an absolute shadow of its predecessor, and it just does not even get up to even average status for me. Because this film, I'm perfectly fine with never watching again. I've already forgotten most of it, and that's after I just saw it recently. And that's not a good thing at all. And I know it's a comedy, and you know what one person finds funny, another person doesn't, and vice versa. And I've said that many times when I'm talking about comedies, but it begs to be repeated because that's how it is with comedies. They are way more subjective than any other genre I can think of. So who knows? I mean, you might really enjoy it, and that's cool. I'd recommend if you are curious about the film and you want to see it, go see it. You might enjoy it a lot more than I did. But anyway, the biggest problem I have with this film is the plot, the way that it's handled, and the way that the film is written, and I'll get to that later. Also, it's not funny enough for my taste either. But anyway, the film is directed by Nicholas Stoller. It's written by 5 writers who it took 5 people to write this. This feels like a Xerox of the first film, just with a sorority put in place of a frat, and a few more sort of crazy things that the sorority does that are crazier and more vindictive than anything that the frat did, and then a really, really limp ending of just a ending that just has all the impact of a wet pussy fart. It's just bad. It's a really bad ending. It literally felt and looked like something straight out of a Disney Channel original movie, and I'll get to that soon enough later in this video. And by the way, this is gonna be full of spoilers. I got to do that in order to remember this film, in order to get everything off my chest when it comes to this movie, and why it disappointed me so much, and why at times it really annoyed and frustrated the hell out of me. Now, yeah, 5 writers: Andrew J. Cohen, Brendan O'Brien, Nicholas Stoller, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg, who all could do a lot better. It stars Seth Rogen, who returns as Mac. You also have Kelly Radner, played by Rose Byrne. So Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne, the couple from the first film, they return, and they're the shining stars of the film. They are absolutely the best part of this movie. The stuff with them, I had the most fun with. I enjoyed the most. They still have good chemistry with one another. They still work really well with each other, and they're in a lot of ways one of the film's very few bright spots. And it's really too bad. I wish they had a better film to be in a better sequel. So you also have Zac Efron who comes back, and his character is given this arc where he's just not really grown in that much as a character in his life, and he's very needy and really feels like he really is desperate for people to appreciate him and so on. And it never really goes farther than that. He's pretty much just a man child. Then you have Chloe Grace Moretz, who's the newcomer to the franchise. She plays Shelby, the leader and the founder of Kappa Nu, the sorority. She's okay, but she isn't given much to do. Same thing goes for every other female cast member. They are given the bare minimum to work with here. They are barely even characters. They're underwritten. There's not much to like about these characters. They're very bland and very uninteresting. Uh, you also have Ike Barinholtz who comes back as Jimmy. He doesn't have that much to do either. He's given really weak stuff to do, like this clown gimmick that just doesn't work. And his wife, Paula, played by Carla Gallo, she also comes back. Of course, not Ike Barinholtz's wife in real life. It's Jimmy's wife. The character he plays, Jimmy's wife. She comes back. She doesn't have much to do either, except be pregnant and just kind of tag along. Uh, Kiersey Clemons plays Beth. She's a member and co-founder of Kappa Nu. You have Beanie Feldstein as Nora, a member and co-founder of Kappa Nu. Christopher Mintz-Plasse and Dave Franco, some of the frat guys from the first film, they have cameos, as well as Jerrod Carmichael. Lisa Kudrow comes back as the dean of the university. Hannibal Buress comes back as Officer Watkins, a local policeman. Selena Gomez has a cameo as the president of Phi Lambda, the other sorority. Kelsey Grammer has just a random cameo as Shelby's dad for some reason. And that LL Cool J cameo that you saw in the trailers, well, it's nowhere to be found in the film. I don't know why they cut it out, but they did. And the film does feel like they cut a lot of stuff. Like they just cut a lot of things out of the movie. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the cast. I mean, there's a few other actors and actresses that are in the film. And I mean, you have, yeah, really. And there's even like some YouTube sensation who is in the cast and plays one of the sorority members. She plays this really annoying, obnoxious Asian nerdy character who every time she was on the screen, I literally wanted to puke day glow. I just could not stand her character. She was just obnoxious in the worst possible way, and there was not a single thing remotely funny about her performance. At least for me personally, I didn't find anything funny about this character at all. Just annoying. Thankfully, she didn't have too much screen time. Now, the film, here we get into some of the big problems of the movie. Let's run down some of the other stuff. I mean, you have music by Michael Andrews, pretty much forgettable. I mean, there's a few song choices I didn't mind in the soundtrack, but nowhere near as many that I actually really enjoyed from the first film. Even the parties in this are weak. Even the parties the sorority throws are very bland, are very safe. They're not over the top. They're not crazy. They're nowhere near as visually interesting as the parties in the frat from Neighbors. So you also have cinematography from Brandon Trost, which is not much really. Editing by Zine Baker is competent at best. So basically, here you have the plot. Mac and Kelly are trying to sell their home in preparation for the arrival of another baby because Kelly Radner Kelly's pregnant again. And you have one of the few moments I laughed out loud in the beginning where Seth Rogen is, and Kelly are having sex, and Kelly's not feeling too well, and then pukes on him. But it's handled pretty well, and because I like those characters, I find it to be pretty funny. Um, so they're trying to get out of this house. They purchased a larger house out in the suburbs, or they want to purchase another house. So they have this couple, the Bears, played by Sam Richardson and Abby Jacobson. And Abby Jacobson I like seeing because I remember her. She's from this show called Broad City, which I don't mind. So they're looking to buy, but the realtor, played by Liz Kakowski, tells Mac and Kelly that their house is in escrow for 30 days, during which time the buyers can withdraw with no financial penalty if they discover anything unsatisfactory about the house. Like, if they don't want to buy the house, they don't have to worry about blowing any money, really. So, like the Radners, Mac's friend Jimmy, played by Ike Barinholtz, and his often again wife Paula, played by Carla Gallo, are also expecting a baby. So then you go to the college campus where you have a group of freshman girls are gathered at a welcoming meeting for the sorority Phi Lambda. One girl, Shelby, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, sparks up a joint, and the Phi Lambda president, Selena Gomez, isn't having any of that. She tells her to put out the joint and says that according to Greek system laws in the United States, sororities can't throw parties on their own properties, so they just attend fraternity properties. So for parties. They can only attend frat parties. Now, when I heard this, I was like, is this just a plot point? But I guess this is a reality. This is a real thing. And this is where we get to the message of the film. And in some instances, if you ask me personally, I don't mind the message of the movie. I think it's a good message. I just think it's absolutely terribly handled and misrepresented in this film. It's terribly handled and misinterpreted in the film itself. And it's a really big missed opportunity. So that's honestly, as if you ask me as far this film should have taken this feminist angle, really. It give these girls their own sorority so they can party in their own buildings, so they don't have to party with the guys. I think that's a good idea. I don't understand why that isn't a reality. If you ask me, why can't they party in their sorority houses? They're not responsible enough? They can't handle it, but the guys can? I don't agree with that at all. And I'm not some PC guy. I'm most of the time I'm like some anti-PC. I'm like, I don't want things to be super super politically correct, but that's the thing. I don't want everything to be politically correct. Some things I'm fine with. So you could say I'm neutral on the whole thing. I'm in the middle. I'm not either of the extremes. I'm not anti-PC and I'm not PC. I'm in the middle. And part of me is, even though I feel that way, I don't think a film should try to do that. And that's exactly what this film does. And it really does not work. See, how I personally feel, my opinion on it, that's fine. I mean, my opinion when it comes to being in the middle with PC and anti-PC is absolutely fine. That works because it's just an opinion. But in a film, in a raunchy comedy, it doesn't work because this film tries to have its cake and eat it too, and it just falls flat on its face as a result. You can't have a raunchy frat comedy or a raunchy sorority comedy be 50% PC and 50% anti-PC, 50% non-PC. You can't do that. You can't have it both ways. It doesn't work. It does not work at all. Anytime that this film tries to be PC, it's cringe-inducing. The film literally shoves it down your throat. But then there's times when it's trying to be as crazy and crass as any of the other frat comedies, and it can be kind of funny. But there's other times where it falls flat because it's just crass for the sake of being crass. For example, The scene where the girls throw used tampons at people. Not really funny. I didn't find it funny. I thought that was just gross. So, and I wouldn't have found it funny if the guys threw a bag of dicks at them either. I really wouldn't. So, either, or cum rags. I mean, I don't find that's just not what I find funny in the first place. So anyway, yeah, this film, that's what's really frustrating about this movie, is this message it tries to get across. It just does it in such a poorly handled way. It's so heavy-handed. It's like it's smacking you in the face with like a 10-ton brick hand. Just bam! There's nothing subtle about it at all. So anyway, the girls want to create their own sorority because they've never really felt like they had friends in high school. They've been the outcasts, and they want to party. That's what they want to do. These girls, they go out and smoke a joint in one of the girls' rooms, and you have a really unfunny scene where this guy comes in and yells at them, which is just completely just lame. Nothing about it is remotely good. And they try to go in and find a way to rent the house across the street from the Radners, the frat house, the former frat house, and they don't really have the money, but Zac Efron is there because earlier, and this is another part of the script that was completely unnecessary, completely forced, and I'm going to say it right now, I don't know why they put it in there. So what happens is you find out that Dave Franco's character from the first film is gay. Pete is gay. Now, I don't really have a problem with people being gay, but I do have a problem with people being gay just because the script decides that they should be gay in a sequel. I do have a problem with that. There was nothing about that character to me in the first film that really showed me that he was gay. Maybe bisexual, but a lot of it, there was just some sort of joke sort of stuff, like maybe his boner popped up when his friend was there, but it was just one of those inadvertent things. It was done for comedic purposes. It wasn't it wasn't a flag that literally was raised up and said, "I'm gay." I mean, he went in and slept with Zac Efron's girlfriend in the movie, his character's girlfriend. So why? He slept with Teddy's girlfriend. So why would his character be gay? Oh, they had a moment near the end where they said "I love you." A lot of good friends do that. That doesn't mean it's gay. So I have no idea why this character is gay. It just seems like it's just a random just thing that one of the writers thought up of. Either they thought it was going to be, I don't know, they just threw it in there just because. It just does not feel natural at all. It just randomly shows up, and there's this other guy, and I guess he's Dave Franco's boyfriend, and that's it. And I'm just left there being like, what? What? Why? Why is he gay? I don't have anything against gay people. One of my best friends is gay. I've known him for years. He's a really nice guy. There are other people in my family that are gay. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with a character that's just randomly gay out of the blue, just because the writer decided that he should be gay. And this is an instance here with Teddy's best friend, Pete, played by Dave Franco. So this causes tension, and now Teddy is running out of place to live because the boyfriend's going to move in, and he decides to run off some steam and ends up at the frat house, his former frat house. And that's when you have the sorority, the fledgling sorority. They're not a sorority yet, they want to be, but they don't have the money. Teddy gives them ideas on what they can do, and they agree on a deal, and they rent out the old frat house. And they turn it into the new sorority house for Kappa Nu. They recruit new members, the kind of outcasts who aren't able to get into the other sorority, and to appeal to these other girls who just want to party. And I don't have a problem with that concept or that idea. Well, of course, things get out of hand, and they're annoying the hell out of the Radners, and they're putting their escrow in danger. And there's also stuff that goes on with the Radners that I don't. They have this repeated joke where their daughter, the little girl, likes playing with a dildo, and it's a bit tone deaf, and it doesn't work for me in terms of its humor. And so, and even the parties that these girls throw are just, they're not much. The stuff they try to do for humor isn't funny to me. They just do this random thing where they just dress up as these powerful women and get drunk, and smoke weed. They have this really bad repeated joke where their new like their pledges dress up and act like minions, and it just falls flat. It is so bad. It's awkward. It isn't funny. It feels like a really forced example of advertising by Universal Studios, because hey, they're releasing this movie and they also released Despicable Me movies and the Minions films, and they were big hits, so I guess they throw the Minions into here for some reason, and it just does not fit. I don't know why they're here. And I don't like the Minions to begin with, so I definitely hate that. I hate the Minions. The Minions suck. They're annoying. I don't find them funny. And I don't find the girls acting like Minions in this funny either. And yeah, for a film that's trying to be so progressive at times, out of the blue, you really have a lot of moments where these girls, I don't know, are not painted in a very progressive light. The pledges don't even have a single line of dialogue. All they do is dress up like minions and go nah, 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 or whatever, and act like minions. That's all they do. I guess because they're minions for the I understand, I get it, but other than that, there's not much there in terms of a joke. There's nothing there for them to make me laugh. Even the times where they're trying to have some physical comedy with them doesn't work. So, and the parties, yeah, they're very bland. And they're not shot very well. They're static. There's no energy to these party sequences when they're shot, and the way that they're shot and edited it's absolutely pales in comparison to the first film. The parties in the first film were energetic and crazy. This is just very tame and lame and so frustrating and disappointing, because this is a film that shoves this SJW progressive feminist message down your throat, and it's not even coming close to being as equal as it really wants to be. It comes it just barely even gets halfway. There are moments where you think it's going to go farther and actually break some new ground and actually give these girls the same treatment as men do in these type of comedies, and it never goes there. And it's so disappointing. It basically plays with these girls with pillows. It glad hands them. It coddles them. It plays with these sorority girls with kid gloves. And in a comedy like this, that just blows. It really does. And the film becomes so boring and just really just not very good, because it does not go as far as it should and as far as it can, because it doesn't have the balls to do so, because of this SJW fucking society that we live in, where you have all these, we're so PC and we can't offend anybody and we can't do that. And then it just makes me realize, why the hell did you even decide to make a sorority girl crazy, sort of over the top, crass, frat sort of style comedy if you're not going to give them the same respect and the same things that the guys did in the previous film? As far as it goes, is they throw bloody tampons at the Radners. That's as far as it goes in terms of how their crazy moments. Can't show any nudity, because God forbid we do that. And we can't have any of the other girls get hurt other than the fat girl, which is a whole nother problem in itself. And so it just leaves a very just bland and completely uninteresting party movie, because the sorority girls aren't even, they're not giving them much to do. And it sucks. And it's very boring to watch as a viewer. So anyway, so yeah, you have these boring parties, and so even if they were, it doesn't matter that they're women. If they were men, the parties would be just as boring and just as bland because they're so poorly written and they're just not very funny. So they're being too loud and obnoxious, but in a very safe and tame way, and that annoys the Radners. So they decide, okay, we're gonna try to find a way to get these girls out of the apartment because out of the not really out of the apartment, but out of the house next door so they can save their escrow. They try to be polite like they did in the first film. It doesn't work. The girls just decide to do whatever the fuck they want to because they want to party and drink and smoke and do whatever. And so then you have the typical stuff where the Radners do something and they call the parents on them, and there's the cameo of Kelsey Grammer that doesn't work, that isn't funny, just falls flat on its face because all he does is berate his daughter and then basically just collapses. And then I couldn't do anything because I miss her so much and I barely even see her. And I'm just like, so he gets on her case, says you need to grow up and be responsible for yourself. This isn't what I'm paying you to do, to party. And then he just randomly just gives up because I guess that's what you do when you're a parent if you're because you're so connected to your little girl. So when she grows up and goes to college and decides to do a bunch of stupid shit and start a sorority on her own just so she can party and waste your money and blow the money that you gave her so she could go to college and get an education, you're just gonna fold like a fucking lawn chair because, oh, it's my daughter and I love her so much. I know I can't really put myself in the same situation here because I don't have a daughter, but at the same time, I don't understand why any respective father would act like this when they're seeing their daughter who they paid all this money to go to college. I don't see why they would cave, regardless of what it would do to the relationship or not. This is not acceptable behavior. I'm not paying you. I'm not paying for college for you to drink and to smoke weed and to just be completely irresponsible with my money. That's not what I'm doing here. Go back to your dorm and get an education and, I don't know, do something with your life. That's actually, I don't know, productive. But if you want to, I guess you can ruin your life and just decide to blow it all. And I guess you can do that, but not with my money. See, that's exactly how what I would feel. Do you know how expensive college is? I'm not gonna be like, yeah, oh, my baby girl, oh, she's all grown up now. Bullshit. You're not showing responsibility for yourself by starting a fucking sorority just so you can drink and party and smoke weed and be irresponsible. I don't understand what the point. What's the point that this film is trying to get across with this type of sequence? Anyway, after that shit, the girls are all pissed off at the Radners because they called them their parents. So they're like, it's on. And then you just have, you know, instead of funny stuff like in the first movie where the guys are all, hey, it's Al Pacino Day, and they're all, acting like Al Pacino and being obnoxious in a silly, fun way. There's this stupid stuff like they just set up chairs on their lawns and just sit there and get a tan. And that's really about it. Drinking and getting a tan on their front lawn. Wow, that's hilarious. That's really, really great. They do the thing where they throw tampons at them, which is really fucking gross and isn't funny. And then they go as far to later. Well, they do this later, but it's just like, what? Who cares? And then you have this stuff where the Radners find out that they're Jimmy and his wife, they have bed bugs, so they decided to throw bed bug ridden clothes into the sorority, so then they have to spend all this money to fumigate the place and get the bed bugs out. And of course you have the stuff where they're trying to get the girls out of the yard, and Rose Byrne is hitting them with the water, and it's the scene you saw in the trailer where it's like, this isn't working, you're only making them sexier, which I still kind of chuckle at that, but See, that's the thing. This film is it's trying to have it both ways. That's what I mean. It's trying to be PC and then not PC. You can't. That doesn't work. It's a complete clash of ideals and ideologies. It just does not blend at all. So, and then there's a few fun lines I liked where the Radners and their friend their friends are at dinner. That's where they find out about the bed bugs thing. And you have this whole thing where they have this sort of dialogue that is kind of construed as being sexist by each individual, and Seth Rogen's character is like, I don't even know what's sexist anymore. Like what is sexist? What's sexist and what isn't? I mean, that 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 was a nice, clever bit. If this film was trying to be a satire of PC values, it failed because didn't feel like that. I did not interpret it that way at all. So so that's definitely a missed opportunity because it really could have ran with that. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't do that. So yeah, so a lot of the stuff you saw in the trailer is some of the funniest moments in the movie, which is really does suck. So after this stuff with the bed bugs and everything, the girls they're running out of money, so they decide they're gonna rat out some weed dealers, buy this weed from a friend of one of the girls in the sorority, and they're gonna sell it at the tailgate and make all this money. So the Radners figure this out because afterwards they figure this out because the girls kick out Teddy because he's moved into the sorority because he's the one that helped them start it. He's the one that helped them start Kapanu, gave them all this idea, all these ideas and everything for what they should do to raise money and so on. And then there's actually one of the few clever bits of comedy in the film where the girls all decide to get rid of Teddy by texting to each other, and even see the text show up on the screen, and they then tell Teddy, "We've decided we were going to get rid of you," and he's like, "Wait, what? What? You didn't say anything." "Yeah, we did." On our phones. So that I got a chuckle out of that. So there was a few moments that did make me laugh, and I chuckled, and I had some fun with it. But the story is just a carbon copy of the first film that's nowhere near as raunchy and over the top and as funny as the first film was, and it doesn't have the heart that the first film did either. And it has a very weak climax. So anyway, so this happens. They get the weed. They're gonna start selling it. Teddy decides to side with the Radners, gives them information. They go in and try to steal the weed, and you have a decent fun sequence. I didn't mind that sequence. That was kind of fun. That was one of the few entertaining sequences. Other than the scene where Zac Efron inexplicably shows his dick. I don't know why. It wasn't funny. It was just, oh, dick. Oh, ha ha ha. You know, it didn't work for me. And there were moments like that in the first film, but I thought they were kind of clever. You know, make a plaster cast of their dick. You know, they sell dildo. You know, they sell them to the sorority girls. I mean, or they sell them to people. You know, to make money like that. Okay, all right. Why the girls couldn't come up with anything as clever as that to make money? It was just sell weed. It was boring. So, they couldn't have the girls do anything clever. Like they couldn't have the girls do their own version of that, like make a plaster cast of their tits or something. Nope, nope, couldn't go there because we can't show any nudity because we just can't do that for some reason because women's nipples are evil. I guess they're so evil that they'll suck your soul out of your body. I don't know why. There's this stigma against female nudity. It's just I don't understand it. A guy can run around with his top off, just like Zac Efron does throughout the entire movie, and nobody has a problem with it because he doesn't have a little bit more flesh there, and his nipples aren't as big. I don't understand. I really don't. I don't get it. If you want true equality, you're gonna let women be just as nude as the men are. You'll let the women show their pussies. You'll let the women run around topless in the film. You'll let them do whatever the fuck. If you really want true equality, you'll let them and give them the ability to do whatever the guys did in the previous film. But they don't fucking do that, and that pisses me off. Because I actually do want women in films to have true equality in cinema and actually be able to do all these things that guys do in these type of comedies. But it doesn't do that. It doesn't. And that pisses me off. Because I think that the women deserve the opportunity to do that. To be as crass and over the top and silly and dumb and just ridiculous as the men are. And even though I didn't like the scene and I didn't think it was funny when they threw the tampons, I at least I like the fact that they went there. But that's as far as it goes. So anyway, you have the scene where the Radners go to steal the weed. Zac Efron distracts the girls by dancing, and Seth Rogen gets the weed. And they steal their weed, and then the girls decide to get revenge by stealing their phones and basically fucking up the Radners' lives by texting and making up texts that make it look like each couple is not doing so well with the relationship. And you have a pretty fun gag where Seth Rogen ends up in Australia, in Sydney, because he thought his wife was there. And then they even go as far to like steal their furniture and sell it. So they break and enter their house and rob it. So they do worse things than the guys did in the first film. But even those things are fairly tame. But even that I could deal with and I'd be fine with if it wasn't for the ending, which just basically fucks everything up. And I'm just going to get to that because this video is long enough. I know people were like, wow, what, a 40-something minute, 50-something minute long video about Neighbors 2? I have a lot to say about this film. I have a lot to say about it. That's why it's so long. But I got a lot of shit to get off my chest. So we get to the ending where the girls, after the renter stole their weed and burned it, now they don't have any money. They're going to lose the house. They're going to lose everything. So, Chloe Grace Moretz's character realizes, okay, girls, we're going to have to do something we don't want to do. We're going to have to dress like sluts and create a party that the frat guys will actually enjoy and want to go to. And that's what they do. And then it becomes this sort of be yourself, whatever thing near the end, which I'm okay with, but it's handled very poorly. And so they have this party where they dress like sluts. And all the men in the party are just stereotypical assholes who like to shoot water at them so they can, so the guys can get a look at their wet tits. Really? And they roofie their drinks and everything. It's the most tone deaf idea of trying to send a message I've ever seen. It's just like every guy is an asshole. Every guy in this frat wants to fuck you. Every guy wants to see your tits. It's just every guy wants you to act like a slut. It's just very, very heavy-handed and completely unrealistic. So anyway, so you have this party where it's not very shot. It's shot poorly. It's none of the energy that the first part that the party had in the first film. It's flat. It's lifeless because the girls don't want to be there. Who wants to watch a party in a party film where the party is nobody wants to be in the party except for the fucking stereotypical annoying frat guys who I guess are just a bunch. They all think with their dicks. There's not a single one of them who doesn't want to roofie these chicks and spray water on their tits and fuck them in the ass. It's very, very tone deaf. It's so one-sided it hurts. So anyway, the girls are miserable. And then they start fighting each other because they realize that this isn't what they want and they're starting to fall apart. And oh, it looks like their friendship is going to be torn apart. And then randomly out of nowhere, you have the Radners, who before you had the stuff where Zac Efron and Seth Rogen are trying to get out of this garage. And you saw the jokes in the trailer. It's all the same stuff you already saw in the trailer, the airbag. And Zac Efron, a nice little part though, he tries to shut off the power, but it doesn't work because they have the minions using another power source, which is a manual power source, or they're like using a bicycle to keep the power going, which was one inspired bit of cleverness in terms of the film and its humor. And being different from the first film. They try to call the cops. Radner's trying to call the cops, but Grace Moretz comes in, Shelby comes in, and that's where we have the scene where she falls down because of the old people phone, and she cuts the cord so they're not able to call the cops. And then you have, like I said, then you get to the point where the girls are all feuding with each other and being angry, and they're like, oh, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this, blah, 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 blah. And, of course, the only girl who got roofied and was acting weird was the fat girl. Really, once again, she's the only one that can do any sort of physical comedy in this film, because that's how it kind of, that's, if you want to be truly sexist, that's the shit that happens in a lot of these films. The fat girl is the only one that can be in any sort of physical sort of comedy or danger, because God forbid the girl who looks like a supermodel get hurt. It's just, it's a whole nother topic and a whole nother video. But anyway, and that's all her character is. She's so poorly written, all she is just to be the fat girl. She's the fat girl who's the comic relief. That's all her character is. It's really, really not really a fun character and not really interesting to watch because it's just one-dimensional. So, same thing for the other character. This is African-American actress. She does okay, but her character is just bland. She's just there to be the minority because we need to have a diverse female cast. She doesn't have much to do, so give her more to do, and that would be better for her character and for the actress. Give all these girls more things to do. Like, I mean, the frat, in the first film, there are at least other guys in the frat that, had a lot of different sort of fun things to do. None of these girls do anything that's remotely that interesting or funny. So anyway, and that's just an example of the screenplay. It's not the actress's fault. They had nothing to work with. So, climax, that's just a wet pussy fart where the girls are all get together, they're arguing, they're feuding, it looks like they're gonna be broken apart, and then the Radners for some reason start showing sympathy. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Kelly didn't show any sympathy for breaking up the friendship between Teddy and Pete, Dave Franco from the first film. Why all of a sudden isn't any different here? I guess it is. They all have this really uncomfortable dialogue that doesn't feel natural at all, where Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne are saying, "Oh, they're just kids. Oh, we're tearing apart their friendship. We can't do this." And I'm like, what is this, a Disney Channel original movie? These girls robbed your house and sold illegally every single item that you had in the house. They threw bloody tampons at you. They did all these fucking fucked up shit to try to tear apart your relationship by stealing your phones and hacking into them and sending text messages that led you on to different places that literally almost tore your relationship apart. And you're gonna be like, oh, they're just kids. We can't do this. No, they did this on their own. They've deserved this. And this is where the film also does not treat these girls the same way they did the frat in the first film. Because instead of these girls getting any sort of comeuppance, learning anything, everything is solved by Kelly just yelling out the window and telling these girls to put on their big girl panties, their big bird panties, put on their big girl panties and suck it up. That's pretty much what she tells them to do, and realize that friendship is more important than a house. And that's what they do. Oh yeah, we don't care about the house. It's all about friends. I swear to God, I almost thought they were going to say, besties, best friends forever. Oh, and they hug it out. And I'm like, what is this? What kind of climax is this? And then it gets even worse. They don't even lose their house. They don't lose it. You have this crazy, ridiculous moment, storybook ending that it's literally comes out of nowhere, and it, like I said, it feels even more like a Disney Channel original movie where the other sorority randomly shows up out of nowhere, led by Selena Gomez, and says to the girls, "We want to join your sorority. We want combine the sorority. We want to party too. And then you have a really cringe-inducing line of dialogue where there's this girl who's like, yeah, do we have to wear a do I have to wear a hoodie? Because I like wearing dresses and being pretty. I don't really, I'm just, I like wearing dresses and wearing makeup, and you know, I don't really want to change. And then they're like, oh, that's fine. You can be who you are. And I'm like, oh my God, why? In a comedy, in a sequel to a frat comedy, you have this shit just thrown in there. It's just like, like even if I was the target demographic, a millennial girl or whatever, I would be cringing. I'm pretty sure a lot of millennial girls were cringing watching this and hearing that line of dialogue. Do I have to wear a hoodie? I like wearing dresses and being pretty and wearing makeup. Oh, that's fine. So yeah, and what happens is they basically buy the Radner's house and give them a happy ending, which is fine because they buy their house so they can use it for overflow. So the Radners get their dream house, and the girls get off scot-free. They broke and entered into somebody's house, robbed it, they did all kinds of fucked up shit, broke the law, and they are rewarded for it. They are rewarded for it with the other sorority just coming up out of nowhere and joining them, and everything ends happily ever after, I guess, for them. Even though they're still pissing away their lives by just smoking and drinking and just fucking everything over and just basically wasting their time at college and their brain cells. So maybe it isn't a happy ending, but at the same time, it's still an ending that just feels so forced. It literally falls flat. It's an example of writers who just, I guess, decided they had to play with these. They had to play it safe. They couldn't possibly put these girls in any sort of bad situation at the end because they would be deemed sexist, I guess. And that's the problem. And if you want true equality, SJWs and feminists, then you would let these girls get hurt or get in trouble or do just as much ridiculous over the top crazy shit as the frat did in the first film. But that's not what happens here. They get a happy ending. Like everything's just tied up in a pretty little bow. And it makes me want to puke Dayglow. It just pisses me off. So, and then you get a repeat of the dildo joke, which didn't work, and we repeat it again. And that's Neighbors 2. I've talked about it for almost an hour, and I apologize for people out there who think this is too long, but I had a lot to say. I had a lot to get off my chest, and I wanted to try to explain things as much as I could so people would understand why I feel the way that I do, why this is so disappointing, why this film to me had a lot of forced messages that just did not work. There are so many times in this film where it literally just says outright, feminists, feminism, this is feminism. And then it doesn't even give the girls the same treatment as the guys did in the first film. It doesn't even give them the same respect or appreciation. It gives them a fucking girl hug moment. They hug it out at the end. And everything ends like it would in a fucking storybook. And yeah, didn't need a sequel to Neighbors 2, and didn't need a sequel to Neighbors, and this film proved it. It really did. The first one was great as a one-off. It didn't need this. And of course, yeah, you have the whole ending where Teddy finally finds something worthwhile in his life and becomes a gay wedding planner. Okay, fine. But once again, the gay angle is also shoved down your throat in this film too. Why is it there? It's just there to be there. Why? Why is this character? Why is Pete gay? Because we fucking want to be gay. Because we want to pander to these millennials, and we want to pander to these social justice warriors, and we want to. That's the audience we want to pander to, and it's so blatantly obvious. And I don't understand why they did that. Because the first film isn't anything remotely like that. And then there's moments where they're trying to satire this stuff, and there's moments where they're trying to be sexist. And then it just doesn't fucking work. If you're trying to not be sexist and then have scenes where girls get sprayed with water and act all sexy, and then you have the stuff where Seth Rogen goes, "Oh, it's not working. You're only making them sexier." It's just, I don't, I don't understand. It just boggles my mind. It doesn't work. The screenplay is so fucking confusing. It's so confused and muddled and just not cohesive. So anyway, that's the big problem. Screenplay is not cohesive. It's trying to be 50% PC and 50% non-PC. And it doesn't end up being good at either of those things. And it makes for a very unfunny, bland, uninteresting sequel and comedy. So anyway, thank you for watching my rant and review on Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising, and as always, I forgot to rate it. If it was rated at 5 stars, I give it a very I'd hate to say this. I wanted to like this film, I really did, but I give it 2 out of 5 stars. Because the only things I really liked about it were some scenes with Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne, and a couple jokes here and there. But that's really about it. Other than that, it's pretty forgettable. It's bland. It's uninteresting. And it's a complete and total waste of a really potentially hilarious and really cool idea to have a sorority house comedy where the girls are just as crazy and just as over the top and just as dangerous and just as ridiculous as the guys are in those frat comedies. But it doesn't, it only has them throw bloody tampons, and that's as far as it goes. And it could have gone farther, and it could have been raunchier, and it could have been funnier, and it just doesn't go there. And it sells the girls short, and it sells the audience short as well. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. See ya.